Hey there, Emma here, and in 2023 I hosted a painting challenge called Dogtober where we painted a different dog breed every day of the month. You may have seen some of the clips that I posted on Shorts at the time, just showing like a few little clips from each painting, but I've decided to go and pull out the real-time footage and share them this year so you can follow along if you'd like to. A couple of disclaimers/explainers. The point of the challenge for me was that I wanted to try and loosen up. I'm a realistic portrait artist, and so I gave myself a smaller size to work with as well as a time frame. I'm painting on roughly about A6 size paper, which is pretty small. In terms of measurements, that's like roughly 10.5 centimeters by 14.8 centimeters or 4.1 by 5.8 inches. And I also tried to set myself a time limit of about 15 minutes. I really wanted to challenge myself to loosen up, but you can approach this any way you like. Maybe you'll do it in a different medium or a certain color palette. The options are endless, totally up to you, but you're more than welcome to follow along, and these are kind of like mini tutorials. I do want to point out though that as this was unusual for me and a challenge to me, not all of them are that good. I really struggled in the beginning to start loosening up, and particularly struggled with the long-haired dogs. But you know, it's an adventure and you'll see me progress through the month and learn a lot. If you want to grab the outline sketches, I have put all 31 sketches into a document, a PDF that you can download from my website. I will link that in the description. You'll just need to pop your email address in, which will sign you up to my mailing list, but then you'll get the document with all 31 outline sketches, roughly about the same size that I'm painting. You're more than welcome to print them, trace them, size them up or down if you need to. I'll be working with my usual set of supplies and mixing colors as well, but I will talk you through the process as we go. Let's jump in. Day 16 of Dogtober, we are painting a Doberman, and we are officially at the halfway mark, past the halfway mark now of Dogtober. Now there's no color mixing in this video, and from what it looks like, I've just been using the colors from after the Dachshund, or the Dachshund. If you'd like to go and see the color mixing, it'll be more in that video. But essentially you're going to need an orange color, and that is created by mixing primary yellow and red together. And I'm just going to start by putting that down in a few places. So I'm going and putting that on the inside of the dog's ears. So this photo of this dog has its ears cropped, so they're standing up, and we can see the inside of the ear on the one facing us, but only a little bit on the far one on the left side of it. We're going to paint some orange eyebrows in. We're going to paint some orange on like the top of its, like where its legs would be coming. I was going to say shoulders, but the shoulders would be the back, wouldn't they? And this is at the front. So on like the chest area, just where the legs are going to be. They're going to get covered and sort of dulled down a little bit down the bottom, but we're going to keep the other areas brighter. We're going to paint it on the muzzle as well. And the cool thing about something like this, and this is the same process we followed for the Dachshund, the Dashie, sorry, I'm not going to say it the proper way the whole time. But the thing that we did was we laid all this color down first on like its muzzle, and then you go and put the darker color around it, but it's dark enough that you could cover it up if you took this too far. So I mean, you could always, like you might be wondering, can't I just paint the whole dog orange and then negatively paint in the orange sections? You could, but just know that you're essentially glazing then. And so the purple on top of the orange might actually turn out to be more of a brown color and not what you are after. So I'm trying to paint them a little bit separately, but if you need to cover some of this up later, it will be dark enough to work. So I've taken this down the muzzle in a bit of a zigzag motion, and then I'm curving it around the mouth and taking that on the bottom part of the jaw. And we're just going to let that disappear down towards the chest. And I'm now going to dip into some pinky color. So just using primary red is all that is, and a little bit of, you know, this purpley black color. I'm going to paint the tongue in, and I'm going to make it darker closer to the opening of the mouth. Now, to get this purpley black color, that is mixed by putting all three primary colors together. So what I've been doing is mixing up a purple with blue and red. And then once I've got that where I like it, I add yellow to it. And the yellow neutralizes the purple. They're complementary colors, opposite on the color wheel. While I'm still painting here, I've turned the part on the closest to the opening of the mouth and under sort of the, do we call them lips? Under that, I've made that darker purple just to shade it. And I've also painted this line along the gums there in back to that pinky color. And now you can really see these teeth sticking out. So that should all be in your sketch. But but we will finish that off when that area is dry. So this colour I'm leaving to look more purpley than black, and essentially what you want is your purple from your red and your blue, a little bit of yellow to take the punchiness out of it and make it more of a deeper, darker, dirtier colour, and then keep adjusting as you see fit. You can definitely make this more of a traditional black looking colour, but I've opted to keep it a little bit more purpley and fun. So I've started in with the far ear. What I've been trying to do in these little quick portraits is paint as much of it as I can without having to reach for my heat gun. And what that often means is just being strategic about the placement of everything and where you're starting and finishing. So I'm starting with that ear first, rather than the one facing us that has a larger area of orange. I'm hoping that by the time I am putting this on the face, that's had more time to dry. And what you can also do is be careful and just not touch the edges. So I think I've just kind of like gently kissed some of the snout colors, like a little bit of the orange and the purple, but I think for the most part the edges have dried, or you can just leave a little gap of white paper in between them. I've very carefully taken this around the eye and the eyebrows, and I still have to put a little bit of color on top of that face, but we'll leave that for a second because at the moment it looks like that eyebrow is just kind of floating there on the far side. Gently taking my color around the ear, and I'm leaving a gap in between the top of the head and that part I brought down from the ear just to fill it in with a more watery color. So I was just looking to vary this up a little bit. Instead of having the whole thing a flat color, put a bit of watery color in there as well, and just let watercolor show what it's all about. It's all about the flowiness and the airiness. I've taken a tiny little bit of watery purple up into the inner ear, added more color down this stripe that's coming down from the ear to the neck, and now I've flicked back over to a more watery purpley black before I'm going to switch back into some darker black. So really trying to emphasize that color coming down from the ear towards the chest. And now we'll fill the remainder of this fur on kind of like the back and the chest with a darker color. I do another layer over this whole area as well, but this is where we want the placement to be anyway, so we go ahead. I'm coming down to this little fur on the chest, and that's where I decide, I kind of sketch around it at first, and then I decide that I actually want to fill it in because I'm finding it quite distracting. Whenever I paint an animal portrait, I'm usually trying to draw the attention of the viewer to the face, so just filling that in with water now. So I find that something like this is actually detracting from the focal point, so I dulled it down a little bit. Back on the face now, I'm just tucking that color around that eyebrow on the left, just to make the head look smooth and not have a floating eyebrow. Rinsing off, dabbing off, and I've still got some light purple on my brush, and I'm just going to put a little bit of color on this muzzle, and it actually turns out looking more brown. So this is why I was warning you against doing the whole thing orange and then painting purple over it, as it may just turn into more of a muddy kind of brown color. So I'm taking that on the muzzle and then just kind of fading that out to the right. So we don't want to paint the whole thing, but we're just giving it a bit of a shadow. And with some concentrated purpley black, I'm now tracing around the opening of the mouth. So this is like the gum line. And we are going to emphasize that little pink area between the teeth and the edge of the gum. So letting that peek through a little bit there. It's making the teeth stand out more as well. And using a light purple just to shade the underside of the mouth as well. Just to put that in the shadows as it should be. A little bit of primary red on my brush, and I'm just going to go over the tongue. So a little bit too punchy there, so I've just dabbed off and now I'm dragging it out. Just giving it a bit more of a brighter color in there. Back into my purpley black now. And I'm going to paint the nostril in before we stop to dry it all off. So a little sideways comma, tucking that up, curving it around. We can only see one. This one's perfectly on the side, so we can't see that. And now what I'm doing is mixing some purple in with some orange, and that's going to give me a bit of a brownie color. You can also try putting blue in with the orange. That's usually how I would reach a brown color. And then we're just going to paint the eye in. And I'm going to leave a gap on the left and the right side of the eye. The gap that I sort of painted around was quite a pinched shape, so I'm going to leave them there for now, but I'm not going to leave them like that forever. But for now, that's okay. And into some more of this purpley black, and before we stop to dry everything off, I'm just going to whip around with another layer in this part of the fur and putting the shadows exactly where I did on the initial layer. So you can see I've gone in really harshly and it's not fully dry yet, so it kind of started to spread, but at the top it was already done. So I'm going back over these areas with water as well, just to kind of spread them out, make sure I'm not going to get any weird harsh lines drying. Spreading that up onto the face, and it's looking pretty good. I'm not going to take it over the rest, so I'm going to lock it in. So there we go, that's the bulk of it. We've only got like 2 minutes left. All right, we're going to paint the nose in now with the purpley black color. So we don't want to do it as dark as the nostril or we're not going to see it. So I'm just putting some color at the bottom, rinsing off, dabbing off, and inviting the color to the top of the nose with some water. That's also going to make the top of the nose look more shiny. Coloring in the inner and outer corner with some light purpley black and just grabbing a bit more of this brown color to go over the middle of the eye as well and deepen that. Some more purpley black here to just kind of stamp some little whisker dots in. Just very gently. I try and vary the shape and size of them a little bit as well, just so it doesn't look like a stamp. Doing about 3 little lines of them. Painting a little mole or something, a little spot on its neck, or sorry, just near its mouth in the orange, and a couple little hairs sticking out from its chin. Dipping into some blue and just adding that to the nose as well to make it a little bit more interesting, and drying that off. And we're going to finish up now. We are going to put a highlight on this eye. So I'm dipping into some white with my detail brush, which is a size 3/0. Making sure it's not watery. We want it nice and concentrated, and I am going to dot a teeny tiny little highlight at the front of the eye on the brown, 2 actually, big one and a small one. Dabbing off the excess moisture and a tiny little crescent at the bottom of that eye. I'm not going to blend it out, but I'm going to pop a little highlight under the nostril of the nose. And we are done. That was a very speedy one, wasn't it? Possibly fastest of the month, but hope you enjoyed the Doberman, and I'll see you in the next one.